Sawyer, are you still with us? Dr. Sawyer?
Hello?
Are you still there?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, please hold on a second. All right, thank you. Happy New Year to all. Good afternoon and welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum Weekly Talk Show. Today is Sunday, January 5th, 2014. The time is now 3:15 p.m. Central Minnesota time, 4:15 East Coast, and I assume it's 9:15 in Liberia from where our guest is calling. Today is obviously the first Sunday of January, which makes it our first show of 2014, featuring former Interim President and Chairman of Good Governance Commission of Liberia, Professor Dr. Amos C. Sawyer. Dr. Sawyer, as we all know, is a political icon in Liberia, and he has served and continues to serve the Liberian people in many different essential positions. In 1980, for instance, he was called upon to head the National Constitution Commission and draft a new constitution for Liberia as a key part of the process of transition to civilian rule following a military takeover. When Liberia was faced with yet another devastating turmoil in 1990, Dr. Sawyer was again called upon to serve as president of the interim government of national unity and given a mandate of leading the search for peace in Liberia. When peace was finally attained in Liberia and democratic elections held in 2005, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf invited the same Dr. Sawyer to serve as chairman of Governance Reform Commission, which is now the Governance Commission in 2006. Since then, Dr. Sawyer has been active in laying the foundations for governance, institutions, and processes that are more accountable, inclusive, participatory, and effective, just to mention a few. My name is Kafumba. I'm your host, and it is my greatest pleasure to welcome former President Professor Dr. Amos C. Sawyer to this forum. Dr. Sawyer, good evening to you in Liberia, and welcome to the show, sir. Are you there, Dr. Sawyer?
Welcome. Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you and to your listening audience there in the United States. I understand it's very, very cold. I hope everybody is well protected.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. I just turn the floor over to Dr. Sawyer so you can begin your introductory remark about the work you do for Liberian people, the Good Governance Commission, and all that. And then after that, we can entertain some questions here from our listening audience, if that's okay with you, sir.
That's fine. That's fine with me.
Okay.
We have an agenda essentially to develop policies that will lead to greater democratization, improve integrity in governance, and to really reorganize governmental institutions such that the service delivery of the government will be more efficient, closer to the people, and actually involving people a bit more. We also work on issues with civil society to enhance the empowerment of civil society so that governance can really truly be a partnership between government, civil society, private sector, and these types of actors. So we work in concert with a lot of other people, civil society organizations, other governmental organizations, the international community, the private sector. One of the highlights of our work is in the area of decentralization. We have completed some time now a policy through a major consultation process throughout the country. And we have gone the step further now to develop a local government law, which is on the president's desk, is going to be further debated and hopefully sent to the legislature. But let me back up and talk a little bit about the overarching framework within which we work. The overarching framework is, of course, the national vision. It has come through it has evolved as a result of discussions since 2006. And last year, on the 12th of December, year before last now, the 12th of December 2012, a delegation or a conference comprising delegates from all 156 districts of Liberia met in Banga and adopted a national vision, a vision that is grounded in the theme of the reconciliation of Liberian people, their unity in their diversity, and inclusive development, inclusive participatory development. It aims at making Liberia a kind of a middle-income country by the year 2030. It's a tall order. It's an achievable order. The key has to do with the implementation of the policies that will proceed from this vision. And there are two major blocks of policies. One is the economic thrust, and that is fleshed out in the Agenda for Transformation, which is a 5-year program. Then there is the National Roadmap on Reconciliation and Healing. We are more deeply involved in the latter, in the reconciliation stage, because out of our shop has come a number of programs on reconciliation, working along with others. One of the things we are doing with respect to reconciliation that we're working on from the Governor's Commission is a comprehensive national history of Liberia that will span 500 years, go beyond the coming of settlers to discuss the kinds of communities, political communities that existed, the advancement of local communities prior to the coming of the settlers, to talk about Liberia in terms of an inclusive history, not just a history that shows people fighting wars, but a history that demonstrates areas of cooperation, a history that talks about the social dynamics of society, the economic history, and the full range. And we're very pleased that a number of Liberian historians are leading this project. We're also launching a project on the review of the Liberian symbols to make them more inclusive and to ensure that our unity can be preserved and a common sense of identity can be forged as a result of the experiences that we've had over the years. Now, all of these require considerable consultations among people across the board, and this, of course, is all inclusive. The government leads much of this activity with the president, the legislature get involved, and the Liberian people. So as far as the unity thing is concerned, the unification, the reconciliation issues, some of these are important. There are other things that are going on from the Human Rights Commission. There are certain things going on from the Law Reform Commission. There's a lot of work coming out of the Land Commission. All the issues that have been divisive, that have caused controversy, they're on the table and are being discussed. Let me just link up back to the decentralization. We're hoping that with some form of decentralization, we can establish strong local government systems where local people are electing local councils, and local councils are engaged in decision-making on development issues that are pertinent to their lives. That you can have ultimately the election of superintendents by local people, so that you can have some sort of relationships that will involve fiscal transfers to local communities. One, overall national planning, but national planning from the bottom that involves the inputs of the towns, the cities, the districts, all the way coming up to the national level. Of course, some institutions are not going to be decentralized. There can be only one foreign ministry and foreign policy that will engage our international community. The court system will be a unified court system. The security apparatus, these types of things that require a single national approach. So quite a bit of work is going on. There are lots of challenges, technical challenges of coordination, challenges of the normal challenges, turf struggles, those types of things happen. But the key is to persevere and to keep pressing on, and to build a constituency in the government as well as in civil society. We're pleased that the president is fully supportive and is on board and is leading this initiative, and we look forward to greater success in the new year and the years ahead. So there's more I could say, but if there were some specific issues, I think I could speak more concretely to them.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer, Professor Dr. Sawyer. Folks, you've heard the former interim government president, Dr. Amos Sawyer, and a lot of you waiting to ask questions already, but if there are some more of you who have any question, comment, or concern, by all means, please come on board. Dial *61 on your phone. And I think I also forgot to mention the fact that EULA's Dual Citizenship Committee, under the able leadership of eminent Emmanuel Wetty, will have some specific concerns or issues that he'd like for Dr. Sawyer to address with respect to some other work Dr. Sawyer did before the Good Governance Commission, which happens to be the 1986 Constitution. So all of you, your questions, keep dialing *61 and we'll get to you in the order that your questions your entries were made. Dr. Sawyer, I'd like to ask the first question. Let me give you perhaps the easiest question for the night. I know you're doing a fine job at the Good Governance Commission, and some of the things your commission has done has been drafting different acts, and policy documents and whatnot. And I know you have specifically drafted an act to establish the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission, and also the National Anti-Corruption Strategy. I'd just like to know if you think that whether your commission's work is to just draft these policy documents, or you also make some effort in making sure that the work you do is implemented, so that it's not just a paper trail, Dr. Sawyer.
Yes, I think we have an obligation to the Liberian people as well as, to the government to go beyond. I mean, the idea was not to establish the Governance Institute just to turn out paper, to turn out recommendations that remain on paper. So that is why we try to work in concert with others to build a constituency to support the implementation of the work, both within the government as well as in civil society. You mentioned the integrity issues with anti-corruption strategy. I think that's been one of our greatest, I would say, the challenges at this point, because what we had hoped was that the legislature would have promulgated that document, would have passed it into law at this time. It's been about 5 years. So, this is where we need massive pressure, because what we what we believe is that lawmakers that are not prepared to pass a law of that nature should actually have the opportunity to answer questions from constituencies as to why they feel this way. Now, I should say last year we made considerable progress on getting the law passed, actually more than we made in years before. At this point, the Senate has already passed the law. They have now voted. They voted last year, and they passed the code of conduct. So that is before the House of Representatives, and we are very optimistic. I should say this publicly to his credit. This representative of Monrovia, who chairs the governance subcommittee, Gray, Akaris Gray. He has been pushing very hard, and he has the support of the deputy speaker and a number of people. So there's a growing number of legislators that are getting behind the code of conduct. So we're a bit optimistic, cautiously so, that we could get it passed in the House of Representatives this year. Now, here's a fallback position that you need to know, that we're discussing with the president, that if there is failure to do so, she should go ahead and promulgate it by executive order, and then let's see what happens. But we think this is sufficiently important that we should have some action this year on the code of conduct. Other aspects of some aspects of the code are already being implemented. For example, the code calls for declaration of assets at the levels of financial managers and cabinet level people and all of these. This is going on. Sometimes it's a bit halting, but it's going on. There is need for intensification of it. The audits are going on. Now, there's been some problems with respect to what do you do after an audit report has been circulated to the appropriate authorities. There's been some discussion to clarify that area, the operational area, so that the audit report, that goes into the president, goes to the legislature, and then there's some action to be taken where there are institutional problems so that they can be clarified, where there are regulatory vagueness so they can be dealt with. But where there's need for prosecution, they should go on with prosecution. I think the Ministry of Justice more recently has been saying that they are trying to improve the number of lawyers so that they are in a position to do the prosecutorial job. Even the Anti-Corruption Commission has been taking on some lawyers so that they too having to have a mandate to proceed with prosecution. But there's a lot of work to be done so that our people's faith can be vested in the mechanisms of our country that are designed to address corruption issues. I think we have a lot of work to do there so that we can come up to speed.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Dr. Sawyer, I got 713 people on the line. Right at this moment, 713 people are listening to hear you. But the sad thing is, folks, we are not. This is going to be a very short show because we are calling Dr. Sawyer. He's not calling us. And if you live here, obviously, you know what it costs to call in Liberia. So I'm surprised. I mean, I'm afraid that we might not be able to take all of your calls. And with that said, let me quickly acknowledge those who are, sponsoring this show. The Organization of Liberians in Minnesota, OLM, with the mission of providing social services in areas of health, housing, education, advocacy. Get involved in your organization, OLM. And ULA, Dual Citizenship Committee, has also volunteered to be a co-sponsor of this show because we have to buy airtime to make this happen. With that said, let's take our first caller for the night. Let's hear from 7786. Could you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer?
My name is Dr. Barton Kula. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
I want to thank Dr. Sawyer for taking off his time to speak with us. And my question to him is for him to give us the thinking behind leaving in the Negro or the non-Negro clause in our Constitution as it relates to citizenship. What was the thinking behind that? And are they...
Dr. Kula, can we just do one question per person? We got so many people who got limited time.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, what was the... So you got one question, right?
Yeah, and how does that relate to... yeah, that's my question pretty much.
Okay, Dr. Sawyer, did you get a question, sir?
In 1981, when the work of the Constitution Commission began, there were two principles that were adopted. One was that we would go across the country and would do our best to reflect the perspective of the Liberian people, what they thought were important in critical areas. And the second was that those areas that we thought that in the old Constitution that did not require change should be left intact. In that category was the age of the president, 35 years old. We thought to change that would be a difficulty, but we would leave it to the Liberian people. On the other issue, the issue that is the questioner raises, the commission put it to the Liberian people. So what is it that you want about this issue? Because it is outdated. Overwhelmingly around the country, people felt the need to keep that provision. As a matter of fact, in many quarters, the threat to vote against the Constitution hinged considerably on that provision. Now, that provision is up for this now. Actually, I mentioned to you that part of what we have been engaged in is the establishment of a Constitution Review Committee to look at the entire Constitution and recommend changes. So that committee has an opportunity now, engaged with the Liberian people, to sort of come up with a way of addressing this issue.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. We'll hear from another caller. Folks, please keep it at one question per call, since we've got so many of us here with such limited time. So we'll hear from 0096, 0096, your name, where you calling from, and your question, your one question for Dr. Sawyer, 0096.
Yeah, my name is Edward Doe, and I'm calling from Maryland. And Dr. Sawyer, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence here. I want to go back to the Constitution again, from the previous caller. I know you were one of the members, committee members that drafted, I believe, the 1983 Constitution, which gave us some articles that are problematic today in present-day Liberia. Currently, you are heading the head of the Reform Commission, to reform government and bring about
governance commission. Yeah.
Governance commission. And one of the things there is it has to touch with the Constitution. I want to find out from you what have you done in terms of watchdog institutions, transitional justice, local governance, and security sector reform. What are some of the key things have you introduced in the governing interventions of post-war Liberia?
Thank you. Dr. Sawyer?
Let me take you back to the 86 Constitution, only to remind your listeners that constitution went through two bodies. The draft, which I chaired the committee that did the original draft. And that draft was taken to a Constitution Advisory Assembly that met in Bangor that made substantial changes. We were not, the members of the Constitution Commission were not part of the Constitution Advisory Assembly. In fact, we were barred by the government from even interacting with those people, even providing for them explanations. So when we talk about the 1986 Constitution, we have to be specific on the provisions. Because I can tell you now some of the things that we put in the draft that were taken out, and some of the things that were put in that we would not have put in, that went contrary to what we had originally recommended. So that's for that. But we're happy that there is an opportunity now to review the entire Constitution such that everything can be considered up for discussion. Now, regards your question regarding specifics, I just mentioned the decentralization element. In Liberia today, we do not have strong or significant local government administration except that which is appointed from Monrovia. We think it is time that local people play a greater role in the selection of local people and in the management of the local resources. This is not a federal government, we're aware of that. But there can be a certain level of decentralization that empowers local people. That is one of the objectives of, in fact, the National Vision program that is underway. Regarding security, the involvement of local people in community policing is something that is on the drawing board. Right now, what is also on the drawing board is the development of security hubs, regional hubs. The Ministry of Justice is working on that. So you push security services out of Monrovia into regional hubs, and they are delivered to local communities from those hubs. And there are other areas. The whole the areas of integrity we talked about, the reorganization of the government, such that ministries are rationalized in a way that we can remove the overlap, streamline them, and make them more effective.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Let's
more examples, specifically of specific ministries and proposals. I can give you that, but just to be brief.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Folks, you probably noticed that I'm not asking a lot of questions today. I'm trying to give you the opportunity to ask because of time factor, and I know there's so many of you, and more keep arriving. So let's hear from 0939. Please keep it brief, 1 minute, one question per caller, so we can accommodate as many people as possible. 0939, your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
Yes, 0939. Can you please call me after 3 persons? I'm driving. The place is noisy. I don't want to disturb.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Then we'll take 5756, 5756. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
Yeah, this is Emmanuel Beatty, and I'm calling from North Carolina.
Well, can you speak a little louder? Yeah.
From the state of North Carolina.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Sawyer, I want to thank you for coming on and being a part of this discussion. We want to also note that in Liberia, prior to this time, you were one of those in the vanguard of democracy in Liberia and an advocate of good governance. Now, my question is, what is your stance as regards the present state of affairs in Liberia as regards good governance, and what have you been, besides the Commission's work, what have you been doing in your professional capacity to ensure good governance in Liberia?
Thank you.
Everything I'm talking about now, I'm doing in a professional capacity against the background of my training. Everything I'm doing now stems from advocacy that I've been doing over the last 40 years. The question of democratization, deepening democratization, and showing that we break Monrovia's monopoly over the political process. The expansion of the franchise, which has already been done, in a way that the poverty clause was done away with. The opening of opportunities for building a strong multi-party political system that exists. So there has been if you look over the years, I just invite you, go back and look at the records of the 1970s. The issues that are on the table now are issues that we've been fighting for since that time. My training in governance, in political science, has enabled me to teach about these issues and is enabling me now to work in this role to ensure that we can put some of these in place. I'm happy that there is now an environment where we can have discussions on this without anybody going to jail. So you can disagree and yet have your voice heard. I think that is the kind of thing that we would like to continue, even if progress is made incrementally, bit by bit. So I think this is indeed a good opportunity. Not too many people are so fortunate to have, in the latter days of their public service, an opportunity to try to put in place some of those things they've been preaching about since their youth. And so, for me, this is very serious business, and it's business to which I remain wholly committed.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Now, let's now hear from Honorable Emina Emmanuel Wetty, the spokesperson for ULA's Dual Citizenship Committee, also a co-sponsor of tonight's show. Honorable Wetty, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Dr. Professor President Sawyer, for coming on. And we all bring you greetings from the Union Liberian Association and the All Liberian Conference on Dual Citizenship. You are on the able leadership of President Gisler. We are in the quest for dual citizenship, going back to the 1986 Constitution. The issue of dual citizenship was was silent. There was no mention about that. Also, the other thing that the Constitution had is it says that the owner of Liberian can own the land. Now, I will agree with you, Dr. Sawyer, that in 1986, nobody envisioned a war that would have Liberians to be away for 14 years or to leave the country. Our own statistics show us that before the war, Liberians were not even traveling, so that is acceptable and understandable. But now that the war is over, there are a lot of Liberians outside outside of Liberia. As a matter of fact, we estimated there are over 500,000 Liberians outside the country.
Disconnected. Please enter the phone number you wish to call, including the country code, and followed by the pound key.
Hello? Hello?
The number you have dialed is not valid. Please enter the number you wish to call, followed by the pound key. Be sure to include the country code.
Mr. Wetty? Hello? I have to call Dr. Sawyer again. Hello?
The number you have dialed is not valid. please enter the number you wish to call, followed by the pound key. Be sure to include the country code. The number you have dialed is not valid. Please enter the number you wish to call, followed by the pound key. Be sure
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Senator Diaspora. I'm glad with the great opportunity given me to introduce to you your president.
Babu want to become president. Uskiro want to become president. Popi Jose want to become president. Crazy man you see want to become president. Mr. Kennedy want to become president. Mr. Lala man want to become president. President be waiting you. Mr. Ruru want to become president. Chego. Now how the president business will be. We suffering for some more. Mr. Lala want to become president. President you see want to become president. Mr.
Folks, please bear with me. I'm trying to connect Dr. Sawyer again. We are calling him from overseas, as we all know. And as I said, we are placing a call on him. So please hang in there. Don't leave us. We will get him back on shortly here. Thank you.
Your president, it can't be one angry. Let me tell you something. When they won't become president with Lala, they will come and say, as the president of the Republic of Liberia, I thank you people for introducing me as the president. The power is vested in me as the president of the Republic of Liberia. I want to make sure I will bring the rest press down. Yeah. I'm going to pull all the CEO press down. I'm going to bring the gasoline price down. Yeah. Lolo want to become president. Yeah, you know he's a idiot.
Hello? Hello?
You want to tell me say president with charge money eater become president? Trust taker become president? And now he says, Liberia will support you. When they be president today, they will stand and say, I'm Method. I will bring down Moldova and build you new Moldova. I'm going to make sure I'm not going to steal the government money. I'm going to make sure Lagos don't get their back pay. I'm the president going to make sure that the AFA are going to be paid in 2 weeks. I'm going to make sure students going to get 12 buses. I'm going to make sure for the little children they say, I'm going to buy two plastic bags for them to poo inside. Yeah. Babu, you see one
I was making a point on dual citizenship, and I thought this was something that was important enough, to be addressed. I understand. Yeah.
Okay. So you back up.
Sorry?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right, yeah. So you're back on, yeah, Dr. Sawyer.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to him
right
that on the issue of dual citizenship, I know there's a conflation of issues. The issues that Senator Watterson has been working on here, I don't know if they're the same as the ones that he's talking about, but those are issues that I personally support. And I think what we need here is to put in place a process here so that all the issues, because, it's conflated with land issues, it's conflated with race issues, it's conflated with issues of people who have left here under conditions of war and have actually settled someplace else to maintain their heritage. So I think it's a question that, that needs to be sorted out. I fully support that Liberians who left here as a result of the war, I think it's a gain for this country. It's a gain for this country.
I think we got disconnected at the time the man had not landed yet. He was just about to ask his question when we got disconnected. Do you mind? Let me open up his line so he can just make his final point on that issue so we can move on, sir.
Sure, let him make his
point. All right,
Mr.
Wetty, welcome back to the show.
Okay, thank you, Dad. Thank you for the time. We were talking that we have more than 500 Liberians that have left the country. Some of them, before leaving, they had their own land, and they took citizenship in another country. And according to the Constitution, only a Liberian can own land in Liberia. So if I have a land in Liberia and I came here and naturalized, technically I'm now a Liberian, so it means that I lose my land. It's the same thing with my children. If I have a child here that was born and that child is an American citizen, they can't go back home and claim the land. So these are some of the things that you guys are requesting that will come back home. But these are laws that we hope that you can consider changing, because dual citizenship will help the country build a middle class and provide knowledge gain to the country. So what would I appreciate your statement that you made that you support the idea of dual citizenship. So, that cut down my whole effort. But we really appreciate you to comment on the issue of land ownership, on the issue of women's rights, because according to Liberian law, a woman cannot pass the citizenship over to her child. So if a woman in Japan, a Liberian woman have a child in Japan, that child is not a Liberian. And if we are calling back all of our people to come back home to develop the country, we need all of these talents to return. And the issue of land is extremely important because Liberians here are going back home buying land. And if the Constitution says that...
you are preaching to the choir.
Okay.
You're preaching to the choir. As I say, every issue that has to do with Liberians retaining their heritage and becoming part of their own country, I fully support. What we need now is a process. How do we get these issues in the national debate and into law? I think that's what we need. We have a constitution process going on now. Now, that is one process that has to be utilized. I think also there's a legislative process. I'm told by some of my lawyer friends who studied this that some of these issues need not be considered constitutional issues. That statutes, nationality statutes, can resolve some of them. I don't know. That is where I think there is need for, a group of people like your group working here on the ground with others, and I can tell you we'll be pleased to join that effort at the Governance Commission to ensure that these things are sorted out with the Law Reform Commission, and we can make a major effort to get this done. I don't think you and I have discussed this issue before. We've discussed many other issues. And, of course, you've been a strong supporter of the democratization process, throughout your own career. And that we allowed you for. But use the constituencies that are available to work with you on this. And I can say the Governance Commission is one of the constituencies that'll be ready to work with you on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sawyer.
Hello?
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yeah. Are you done?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, Dr. Sawyer. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, all right. All right, let's hear from another caller. Let's take call from 9103. 9103. Your name, where you calling from, and your one question for Dr. Sawyer, sir. So, man.
Oh, my God. I hope Mr. Wetty heard me.
Yeah?
Yeah, Mr. Wetty is on. If you want, he's on. I just don't want to, reduce it to a dollar. I'll get back to him later here. Mr. Wetty heard you well. Okay. He's still on the line, and I'll come back to him if he has a follow-up question or comment, to make. So let's take somebody else. 9103. 9103.
Hi, this is Sia Willie calling from Washington, D.C. Thank you, Dr. Sawyer, for your time. Happy New Year to you. I must say that I implore that those on the line read your book, The Emergence of Autocracy in Liberia and Beyond Plunder. They are comprehensive books on Liberia's political, social, and economic structure. My question to you is, and statement first is, because many people voted for President Sirleaf with the belief that she, if any, would have been the best candidate to lay the fundamental value systems for positive change in Liberia during her first administration. But this is not the reality. What is the time frame for implementation of the governance partnerships and schemes you discussed earlier, especially the launching of more inclusive symbols that represent ethnic groups within the borders of Liberia?
Thank you.
That is in fact this month. We're hoping that before the end of this month, the process will be launched. There's been a lot of background work that has been going on. We're hoping that before the end of the month there will be a formal launch of the national symbols and a group, people who committee. Now, remember, all of this is taking place now and probably will gather momentum within the framework of the national vision. We needed that national vision in 12, because that now is our overall framework agreed by Liberians as to how we move forward. So we hope we can accelerate the pace.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Let's hear from 0888 0888. Your name, where are you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
Hello?
Hello? Your name, where are you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
My name is Garcon Morway, and I'm calling from Dr. Sawyer, home state of Chicago, Illinois, where he got his degree from.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is the wind in the city? I know it's cold. The Hawkins.
Man, we shoveling snow out here. Yes, no, I'm glad that you was able to clarify your position on dual citizenship, because I am a strong activist for it, and I believe that it's the way forward as a young Liberian. So with that, I would take side with my chairman, Wetty, and applaud you for all the great work you're doing. And I hope our governance in Liberia can get better, because what we're reading in the press is not, appealing. Over $1 billion of aid going to Liberia, and the money is not being accounted for. So I hope you'll keep up the good work. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. That was just a comment, so unless you care to add, otherwise I'll take another caller, if that's okay with you, sir.
No. All I would like to say is that the freedom of the press is indeed working in a way that accelerates information or brings out information, sometimes true, sometimes false, but the need to maintain press freedom supersedes some of those, the evaluation of the content of the press. So it's, we will improve. I'm very optimistic.
Thank you. We look forward to that. Folks, let me remind you again that tonight's program is sponsored by the Organization of Liberians in Minnesota, OLM, with a mission of providing social services in the areas of health, housing, education, and advocacy. Get involved is your organization, sign OLM, and EULA Dual Citizenship Committee under the able leadership of Emmanuel Wetty is also a co-sponsor of tonight's program. Next week, Sunday, the 12th, we will have Alaji G.V. Kroma on the show. He's going to be talking about the TRC report in detail, so you don't want to miss that as well. Let's hear from 7087, 7087. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer. 7087.
My name is Benjamin Tarr, and I'm calling from Columbus, Ohio. Thanks, Mr. Moderator, and thanks to Dr. Sawyer for over 40 decades of service to country. My question to you is, what are one of the issues that you see maybe in the future or now that's going to derail peace?
I'm sorry. Please speak a little louder.
Can you speak a little louder? He's not hearing you well.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So my question is, what are one or two issues that you see in the current state of Liberia that is going to derail the peace process or peace in Liberia?
Okay.
What are one or two of the issues?
Yeah, that you see.
That will what?
That you see could derail the current peace process in Liberia.
Oh, that could derail.
Yeah.
So I think one of the issues that is extremely important, and I'm happy that we're beginning to grapple with it very seriously, is the land issue. Contentions of land, I think, could escalate, but with the new land policy that was crafted by the Land Commission and has now, I think, been approved by the President, some legislation is to be put into place, and the whole land sector administration is to be reorganized. I think we're on our way to really firmly addressing this problem. It has been a major issue here. For me, I think that's one of the most important factors with respect to issues that could, become volatile and could spin out of control.
Okay. Thank you. Let's say before I take another call, let me ask you this question quickly. You were recently quoted in a local newspaper in Liberia saying, in the local paper, 20th edition, saying that if President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is serious about good governance, she must kick against political patronage. So my question is, what informed that decision? What were you really trying to say, Dr. Sawyer?
That she must do what now?
I
didn't get that.
You said that if Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is serious about good governance in Liberia, she must do away with political patronage in Liberia. So my question is, what informed that decision? What are you saying, Dr. Sawyer?
No. This was. I think it is the newspaper that framed the context around Mrs. Sirleaf. What I did say, this was a program. In fact, Mrs. Sirleaf was at the program. It was organized by the Civil Service Agency, and I was asked to do a keynote. And the point I was making had to do with the need for the reorganization of the civil service so that we would depoliticize many aspects of the civil service, the appointment, they build a strong merit-based system, and maybe establish a commission that will not be sitting at the cabinet table, so that the merit system can be institutionalized. And this is a policy, actually, that the Governance Commission has been pushing from the time Mrs. Sirleaf herself was chair of the Governance Commission. I think people don't know that before she ran to be president in the transitional government, she was the founding head of the Governance Commission. These are issues that she was working on time. So it is in that context of building a merit-based civil service system. And the president made it clear, even at that meeting, that she stands committed to this. Many new appointments now, appointments for managing directors and all that. She's sending them to the Civil Service Agency to vet people and make recommendations. There's a question now of having in every ministry a principal administrative officer who will be a senior civil servant with the rank or the status, the standing of a deputy minister that will head the area of the professional production of the ministry. And those people will be tenured. They're not going to be changing with government as government come and government go. They'll be based on merit and across the public sector. So it was in that context we were having this discussion. And it was not something pointed to Mrs. Salif as such.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Now, a while ago, I told you we had 713 people. Now, I don't know if more helps. Even to me, that means more questions for you. But right now, I'm happy to report that we got 827 callers online. So let's see how many we can get out of that. Let's take call from 2318, 2318. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. This is Alexander Walker. I'm calling from Minnesota. My main question had been asked, but I will just come with a supplementary one. Dr. Sawyer, you did talk about part of what you talked about had to do with reconciliation and Liberia achieving the middle class status by, I think, 2030, if I can quote you right on that. And I personally, as a public administration major, I see that it is achievable, but achieving it and leaving the Liberians who are in the diaspora out will make it a difficult piece. Now, I know you say you for dual citizenship, you for it, so I'm sure it will not be a difficult question for you. But how do you see Liberia achieving reconciliation in this point of forgiving those that murder our brothers and sisters, and at the same time shutting the door down on the very people they drove out of the country to regain some level of citizenship back? I mean, I know you say.
Thank you. Dr. Sawyer? Dr. Sawyer? Dr. Sawyer? Hello? Oh, I think we're having bad connection again. Dr. Sawyer? This is quite an interesting show too. Okay. Dr. Sawyer?
Yes, we seem to be.
Right, the network, yes. The network is not too good either. So did you get that question?
Well, you know, I live in Caldwell, and the signals here are very weak.
Oh, okay. So did you get the question, or you want me to have you repeat the question?
No, I didn't get the question.
Okay, all right.
All right.
2318, could you please quickly go over your question, sir? 2318.
Yeah, Mr. Dr. Sawyer, what I was saying, you know, you said something about reconciliation and Liberia achieving middle class status by 2030. Now, I was saying, how do you, in your personal view, see Liberia achieving that goal with the current status of leaving Liberians who are in the diaspora that hold U.S. citizenship out? How do you see that being achieved with this segment of the society being left out?
Okay.
No, I don't think they should be left out. I don't think that's a vital sector of our population, and that's one of the most empowered sector. You know, I know many people, and for some time I was part of that group and know that opportunities there can benefit here. It doesn't make much sense to exclude Liberians who were forced out of their country in the first place as a result of war, and who now stand in a position to be of some help to their country. We have to build an entrepreneurial. Look, one of the problems we're grappling with here now is the empowerment of Liberians. Empowerment of Liberians beyond wage labor, so that people who have skills or who have entrepreneurial talents can have access to capital and become employers themselves, rather than standing online looking for jobs. And a good many of those people with the skills and the entrepreneurial experience are people already out there in the diaspora. So it makes every sense to work out some arrangements so that indeed our people can regain their status as citizens, regain the land rights, and be able to participate fully in the local economy. Now, this is all my personal view. I think what is important is, as I said to Mr. Wetty, let us put the process in place now, so that we can work towards affecting this kind of change that we need. And that's all part of the transformation towards becoming a middle-income country by the year 2030. I mean, that's one element of it. Reconciliation, that's part of reconciliation also. That's part of economic empowerment also. But other parts of reconciliation are important. And sometimes it bothers me to hear people say, oh, the symbol doesn't matter because what matters is rice on the table. Now, symbols are about identity, whether you feel fully a full-fledged citizen or not. So you have to take these issues into consideration. The gender issue. 50% of the population is a female, women. Unless women are empowered, democracy as well as economic development remains stunted. So these are, for me, they're just they're no-brainers. These are not issues that we should be, laboring over. I think what is important is for us to, in fact, adopt the policies and implement them and move our country forward.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Let's see, I think this caller is ready. He passed on earlier because he was on the road. 0939, your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer. Please keep it brief. 0939.
Okay, my name is Monokoy Doma. I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dr. Sawyer, you were president of the interim government in Liberia during the war. The interim government, ECOWAS, declared Monrovia as a safe haven, but it allowed other warring factions to operate from that safe haven.
Can you speak louder? He said you were. Go ahead.
I said you were interim president during the war.
You're still very low, so I don't know. Yeah, you're kind of low. Can barely hear you.
Wow.
Okay. The wow will sound a little louder.
You hearing me now?
Yeah, much better. Yep.
Yes.
Yes, I said you were interim president during the war. The interim government, ECOWAS, declared Monrovia as a safe haven, but they allow other warring factions to operate from Monrovia and commit atrocities. As a political scientist, the Liberian people expected you to end the war and bring peace to Liberia. That didn't happen. I don't know if you left or you were fired. So did you feel the Liberian people? Your comment, sir.
Thank you.
No, I did not fail the Liberian people. I served the Liberian people who I'm a part of, who nurtured me and who sustained me, and to whom I remain loyal. The war that took place involved lots of factions. The question was not one of conquest. It was one of how you end a civil war that involved several factions. the important thing was to establish dialogue amongst the groups and to ensure that we could bring a country back into unity and to hold elections. Yes, atrocities were committed, and those atrocities were investigated. That is why we need to go back and take a look at some of the records as to what happened, and to, in fact, have a policy of reconciliation that will be based on the truth, the facts, and fashion us a way to move forward. The question of who did what, the Truth and Reconciliation investigated some of this. There's been, since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a national roadmap on reconciliation. And that roadmap specifies a number of things that should be done, including the holding of Palaver truth-telling at local levels, including the memorialization of the dead, including the National History Project that I talk about, the National Symbols Project. And that is how we are going to move on. About my feeling, I totally reject that. Liberia has a major challenge. It requires a lot of people, including you, to help to move this country forward. And I think that is where we are today.
Okay. Dr. Sawyer, thank you. Thank you for your time. Folks, to those of you who are calling me, I got Dr. Sawyer on my phone, so I can't take a third call. If you must communicate with me at all costs, I advise you text to me. We can do testing back and forward, but I can't take another call right now. Let's hear from 4876, 4876. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer. 4876.
My name is Tia Jadiel, and thank you. I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And my question is to Dr. Sawyer. He talked about the 70s when he was an advocate. I believe he ran as a mayor at one point against Chuchu Horton. And so at that time we believed that the question regarding the position of mayor in our country was constitutional. It was an electable position. Therefore, to appoint someone in that role would be a violation of the very Constitution. Dr. Sawyer, as your position, not only as a chairman of the Good Governance, but as a political activist who taught this thing at the university, do you see a conflict with respect to the fact that the president continued to appoint people in that role without regard to the very Constitution that provided that position to be an elected position?
Thank you.
Yes, I see a conflict, and I see the president has been very, very much uncomfortable by the role that she's playing now. And I know this because we've talked about it. The Constitution has two conflicting clauses there with respect to this issue. But you are right. We were at the stage where we're electing mayors. But let me tell you what has happened since those days. The number of cities on paper have quadrupled. Sometimes just by legislative fiat over the years of conflict. Areas that hardly have, major human settlement have been declared cities. In my own county of Sino, there are about 42 cities or thereabouts declared on paper. Each one with the right to claim a mayor and a council, a municipal court, and a traffic court, all of the positions that should exist in a city. In Grand Cru, there are 32 cities on paper. Now, it seems to me the course of action that we're taking now to do the boundary harmonization and to clean up. Well, we have a local government law that actually legitimizes places that are supposed to be cities as cities and discards maybe some of them might be townships, some of them might be. To put all of this in order is important. If we didn't do that, right now, if we held municipal elections for cities, we are going to be talking about close to 1,000 cities, or at least 500 cities around this country. And I know, this is not possible. Even to think about 200 cities or 100 cities, will be far beyond what the reality on the ground is showing, and surely what our national treasury can support. So these are some of the realities. Unfortunately, there has not been very much information provided to the public on this. There are some really valid reasons why these electoral municipal elections have not taken place. So right now, what is underway is the boundary harmonization. We hope this exercise, along with the local government law that would define what a city should be, the population, the amenities that should be in it. We can then, go into the elections, hopefully in the next couple of years coming up, and the elections. The same thing with paramount chiefs. The multiplicity of chiefdoms with a lot of boundary problems. And then you recall.
Hello? Dr. Sawyer? All right, I think I have to call him again. We're having a bad connection, folks. You heard him say that he lives in Carway, where the reception is not the greatest. So we're going to call Dr. Sawyer again shortly here. Before I do, let's again acknowledge our sponsors for tonight's program, the Organization of Liberians in Minnesota, OLM, with the mission of providing social services in areas of health, housing, education, and advocacy. Get involved. It is your organization, SAN OLM. And also that the Liberian Diaspora Forum is the best place to advertise your business now. Program events where you can reach hundreds of people in minutes. So if you wish to sponsor or make any special announcement, by all means, please contact us at 612-203-3820. Let me put Dr. Sawyer on. Hello, Dr. Sawyer? Dr. Sawyer?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I hope I wasn't talking. I hope I wasn't talking to myself.
No, you end up. I think you finished the rest of the conversation by yourself. You started with us, and then your line went off again. That happens sometimes.
Okay, but the point I was trying to make was that there is need first for rationalization, because the years of the war, cities were created by fiat, and now we have inside of 42 cities in a grand crew, 32 or 35 cities around this country, areas that were even just towns or small settlements, hamlets, have been declared cities. And if we take the law to its logical conclusion, these places should have municipal authorities, mayors, city councils, and all of that. Then the second point I was mentioning was that our Constitution requires that there should be a majority vote in the electoral process, elect somebody as a mayor or a chief or something. They must win 50% plus one vote. Now, given the nature of our politics, as we all know, winning 50% in municipal elections or in paramount chieftaincy elections would be a tall order. So that means there will be runoffs all over the place. So imagine just in 2 counties, you're talking about 70 cities between Grand Crew and Sino. I mean, you can see how the cost multiplies when you talk about adding the chieftaincy elections. So the reform exercise that's going on is to rationalize these processes, to go back to the drawing board and to reach a determination on what a city should be. Now we agree that all county seats should be cities. But after that, after county seats, what kind of population you need to declare a place a city, what kinds of social amenities, commercial activities, all these things should exist in a locality that then qualifies it to be a city. Is that type of reform exercise that's going on now. So I think the president was given an opinion from the courts that, in fact, she could go ahead and appoint mayors pending this type of exercise, because the Constitution gives, it has a kind of a lack of clarity there, and the courts said that this clarity, the president could go ahead and appoint these people. So the president went ahead and appointed these people pending the completion of this exercise. And I can tell you, she is very concerned about this. She's uncomfortable about making these mayoral appointments and all that sort of thing. And the sooner we can do this, the better it will be for all of us. It's taking a bit of time because there are disputes. There are disputes among our people in some places about boundaries. The Soap Creek, the river, and all that sort of thing. So all of that has to be cleared up, and we're on the way to doing that now. The Governance Commission, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and other actors are trying to get this cleared. We are hoping, so by the time we are in the 2017 elections, we would have cleared all this thing behind us. But it's been a major task, I don't think it's been communicated well to the people, especially to our people abroad. But these are the challenges that we face.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. And I noticed from one of the callers cautioned that you like to hear people from your home state of Chicago. So let's take another call from Chicago, from the president of EULA, President Gay Slay of Union of Liberians Association in Americas. President Slay, welcome to the show. Quickly, sir, your question, comment, or concern for Dr. Sawyer.
All right. Thank you, Kafumba, for the job that you're doing in connecting the diaspora community to the rest of the world. I want to use this opportunity to welcome Dr. Sawyer to this conference. Despite his communication difficulties, he's still hanging in there with us. We said, thank you for being on here with us, Dr. Sawyer.
Thank you so much.
What I just want to say here, I don't have a question on this conference for you, but I just want to applaud you for your effort in joining our struggle for dual citizenship. As I listen to you making many presentations, you, of course, eloquently alluded to the fact that you support the dual citizenship. So talking to you on the issue of dual citizenship will be preaching to the choir. But I just want to say we thank you for joining us in this effort.
President Slay?
Yeah.
It looked like his line dropped again. Dr. Sawyer? Yeah, I think your line just went off again. We just lost him again. So yeah, it's not the greatest connection ever. So let's see. Hello, Dr. Sawyer. All right, let's try to get him again. Stay where you are, President.
Okay.
Yeah, just stay.
Thank you.
Let's get him again. Yeah. And okay. Okay. Someone's working on the call here. And while we are with that, for those of you who were on the show last week, when Representative Heron B. Family and Representative Solomon C. George were on the show, just so you know, I have that show up on YouTube already. You can access it on the Liberian Diaspora Forum. Dr. Sawyer? Dr. Sawyer?
Yes,
yeah,
please.
no, he's still on. He's going to continue. That, President Gisler, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Again, like I was saying, I want to take this opportunity as the national president of ULA. I want to welcome you and say thanks for joining us in our effort of dual citizenship. Again, speaking on this issue to you, like you rightly stated, will be like preaching to the choir. But I just want to say on behalf of the union and the board, directors, the administration, we'll be looking forward to coming either to Monrovia or when you return to the state for a visit. We'll definitely be looking forward to meeting with you so we can just dialogue and strategize further in terms of how we can both advance this idea of dual citizenship, because it is very important to the diaspora community, and as you stated, to some key policy issues that are being developed in Liberia to move our nation forward. We need the diaspora community in all form, fashion, and this is something that we are all looking forward to and look forward to working with you. We commend you, the Honorable Ketu Watterson, and other members who are in support of this bill on the ground. So I know there's many people on here tonight. The issue is very important. This is why we have about 800 callers on here. So I don't have a question for you. Just want to commend you and look forward to locking arms with you as we all move forward in this struggle.
Thank you, President.
Thank you so much. I look forward to a discussion on that.
Thank you, folks. And as I was saying before, so our last week's show with the two honorable representatives, Henry Family and Solomon C. George, that were on last Sunday. I've uploaded that show on YouTube. It's at your disposal now. You don't have the chance to go and listen to it if you missed the show. And also, please mark your calendar for next Sunday, January 12th. We'll have Alaji G.V. Krama on here. I'm told his preferred topic will be the TRC report. So let's take another caller here. Let's hear from 1123, 1123. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer. 1123.
I really have no specific questions anymore. I think my questions have been addressed. I just wanted to, like ULA's president, commend Dr. Sawyer for his support for dual citizenship. As someone involved in the process, we look forward to working with him. And we know that whenever we call on him, he will be there, as he stated earlier, to provide the support that we evidently will need.
Thank you. The point is well taken there. Dr. Sawyer, it looked like doing very well by answering too many questions at once. That's a good thing. Now, let's hear from 2127, 2127. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer. 2127.
My name is Mamu B. Momo. I'm calling from Maryland.
Okay.
My name is Mamu B. Momo. I'm calling from Maryland.
Yeah, Momo, can you speak a little louder? You kind of, Dr. Sawyer is in a bad reception area.
Okay.
Calling from Maryland, Momo. Okay, what's your question for Dr. Sawyer?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dr. Sawyer, I want to commend you for your service to the Liberian people. Since you started from the 70s, you have never gave up. You continue to fight for justice and democracy in our country. My question has to do with the present governance status for our country. As we all know that money and governance all work together. Today, if you follow the budget of our legislature in the House, a member of the legislature is almost the budget of that yearly budget of that person or that individual is almost $1 million. Comparing it to the state of our country that is among the poorest country in the world, as the chair on good governance, what is your institution doing to try to build up the status of our people from poverty to a better standard of living?
Okay.
Increasing that figure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Sawyer, did you get a question?
I heard the first part of the question was about the legislature, and then the second part was about that was not too clear for me.
What is your institution doing? What is your institution doing to lift our people out of poverty? Pretty much, that is the idea. So, right.
Yes. Well, I think we're part of a network of agencies connected to the government, but also involving some civil society, private sector, all working together. I think one of the going concerns now is how we improve the economy so that it creates more jobs and provides more entrepreneurial opportunities. I think between that kind of these types of efforts on the one hand, and accelerating the improvement in education and skills training, we would do well. But both are huge problems, given where we're coming from, and given the structure of our economy, for example, on the one hand. We remain a raw material producing economy. And I think the need for accelerating value addition, is important, cannot be overestimated. The need to empower Liberians in the small and medium scale, enterprises area, so that they too are creating the jobs. The need for spin-offs from the big multinationals, so that Liberian entrepreneurs are involved in participating in the economy. There are a number of initiatives that are ongoing. Some new ones are going to be announced, I'm sure, in the new year, because I know that this is a front burner item for the president and our economic team. And so I think we will see a lot more going on in the next few years that will complement the massive movement in the infrastructure area, roads, bridges, and that sort of thing. We out here in Caldwell, we now see considerable movement on the building. If you know Caldwell, the narrow bridge that is there, there's now an expansion. There's an effort going on right now to sort of to build a new bridge, a wider bridge, a road development. So let's see how we can all join efforts over the next few years and move this economy and move our skill training and the educational system, so that we would make a bit more progress.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Folks, just so you know, we have long passed, the halfway mark for this show. So, and as I said from the beginning, it is not even possible to think that we'll take all of you. So, but just so you know, we are nearing towards the end here pretty shortly. I know it's getting late in Liberia. So let's quickly, please keep your questions brief and one question per caller. Let's hear from 1963, 1963. Your name, where you coming from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
Good evening, Dr. Sawyer. My name is El Donzo. I'm calling from Plymouth, Minnesota. It appears to me from your discussion on this shows that the government of Liberia is doing a lot of good things, and we can see a lot of things coming that would be beneficiary to the people of Liberia in the coming years. Now, my question has to do with if you have any intentions to run for president in 2017. In addition to that, there's
one question per caller. Thank you. Do you intend? Are you going to be on the ballot in 2017, Dr. Sawyer?
No, I have no intention of running for president. I consider myself now someone who can make a contribution in advisory capacities. Liberia, we've lost a lot of our senior statesmen and stateswomen. And I think we need to replenish that pool of people who have been involved in public service over years, have gained some experience, who have some degree of, regional or continental or global, sort of interactions that can be brought to bear to help the situation that we are faced with here in this country. I think there are many people capable and qualified who would be running to be president, and so there will not be a shortage in the pool from which we'll be choosing leaders. But I have no intention of running to be president of this country. I just want to be able to serve my country in advisory capacities, to bring my skills and talents and experience to help as we tackle the development challenges that we have.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Let's hear from Senior Yewule. By the way, Senior Yewule is an associate volunteer promoter of the Liberian Diaspora Forum, so we would not be having this show if it wasn't for him and some other volunteers. So, Mr. Senior Yewule, calling from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Welcome to the show. Your question for Dr. Sawyer.
Yes, Kafumba, thank you so much. Let me first salute the former interim president, Dr. Sawyer, and also make a passionate plea to him. I think it's safe to say that he will be impressed at the end of the day to see how the show runs and the manner in which you, our dynamic host, has conducted yourself. So my plea to him would be, please invite others. We intend to have the Honorable Vice President Yagar waiting by the 19th. We're still in preparation for that. But if you have a coffee with him also between now and the 19th, please extend to him your experience on the show today and let him know what kind of show we have and how many Liberians in the diaspora are willing to hear from you, our leaders, and high profile, no profile, just anybody has a voice on LDF. So thank you for being on our show tonight. And let me quickly go to my question. My question is about your position on the TRC, and we want you to be clear on the record where do you stand with respect to the implementation of the TRC. But let me premise my question by saying some of your critics say, you are one of those people involved with the war. You're one of the people who planned the war, and the TRC, as it is, was so kind to you. How do you respond to your critics? And what is your definite position on the TRC? Thank you for being on our show tonight.
Thank you. So,
Thank you very much. As far as the TRC is concerned, they called me. I appeared there. I gave several hours of testimony. And in fact, a good deal of it, if not all, I think all of it, was written and verifiable. So the question of coming to me, I don't think the TRC, unless they were not in search of the truth, but if they were in search of the truth and they received my testimony and it could be verified, I don't see how they could have done something other than that. Now, there are people who have their minds fixed, and I can understand that. People who lost relatives, who lost property, and they want to think that the agitation for democratization of the 70s, in fact, was the cause of their loss. Now, societies go through periods of change. The issues that were raised in the 70s, if you go back and look at the record, you will see that many of those issues obtain today. But you will also see that the issues that were resolved, that were raised and resolved, are the issues upon which we are building new foundations. Let me just take you back to the period when, to register a political party, an opposition party, people went to jail, people got killed. It is now that we bear we benefit from the sacrifices made there, where we can talk about 15 or so political parties, and that the requirements to run for president, I'm not just talking about the legal requirements, but the social, what were perceived as social obstacles are removed, so that any young man and young woman can dream of being president. Now, we are talking about how we deepen this so that the same young men and women who can want to be president cannot feel that they can only serve their country from the presidency. They can only serve their country from the superintendency, from the position of district commission. Because all of those need to be in one way or another accountable to the people. All of those need to be sufficiently resourced so that people can make some decisions there. So, this is part of what we're, if you look at the Constitution of 1980, it entrenches some clauses there. Clauses having to do with the state of emergency. Clauses having to do with treason. Why were these necessary? Because they reflected the political time, the nature of the time. When people were dragged up, to prison for treason because they opposed the government. When a state of emergency was declared, willy-nilly. When you had laws on the books that you couldn't criticize the president, it was seditious. So these issues were confronted. And I'm very proud to have been one of those, of that generation, that confronted these issues. When I talk to young kids today, they don't know that the votes that they are casting, that there was a time when our laws prevented those who did not own real property from voting. It took sacrifices of some people to change that. And so this is the evolution of our political process. Yes, there was some violence, and that was tragic. That was tragic. And we should now build the bridges that violence has caused. Build the bridges across the various individuals and groups that were affected by that violence, as all of us were. And we must move forward. But we cannot ignore the fact that this society has benefited enormously by the democratization process that has been deepened, by the inclusiveness of our economy that is developing, by the fact that social standing of all of us is being elevated. I think these are the foundations upon which we can continue to make progress. And many of them were laid on the sweat, the blood, the treasure of people in the 70s and thereafter.
Okay.
So that's my view on that.
And how about your view on the implementation of the TRC as a whole?
I'm sorry, on the TRC. Oh, okay. On the TRC report. Now, I think, look, the TRC report has, I think, 42 or more recommendations. Excellent recommendations, many of them. The TRC report, if you take and juxtapose it to the roadmap on reconciliation and healing, you would see that they're almost identical in terms of the recommendations made. There are one or two differences, and let me speak to them. One is the difference with respect to lustration. The TRC said that a certain number of people, including the president, should be barred for 30 years. Now, quite clearly, that recommendation was challengeable. It was challengeable in the court. It is challengeable in the capacity of the society to enforce it. When a recommendation like that appeared in the report of the Truth and Reconciliation report of Chile, it took them, 30 years or so before they could even come back to deal with some of those types of issues. The second set of issues are the issues on prosecution. Now, those issues on prosecution become made more complicated by the fact that we open elections to the Liberian people and said that they are free to elect anybody they want. So after the Liberian people have elected their leader, then we say those that on the list to be prosecuted should be prosecuted. So how do you do that? How do you do that? What have we heard from our international partners? The people who were part of the efforts, supporting this TRC thing. Were they ever willing to join in to talk about prosecution and all that? No. The focus was on elections and moving the society forward. So that is where we are. Can we then now go back and look at a Liberian way, as the South Africans did, where they went to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and they established restoration as the principle to drive reconciliation? What can we do so that we address impunity, but at the same time, we move our society forward? And I think that is within our grasp. That is where we should start the dialogue at the Palava Hut level and talk about that.
Okay.
So this is where we have to really be both honest and pragmatic about these issues. Nobody will come from someplace else, arrive here, and begin some kind of a miraculous movement to move us forward. We have to do that ourselves. And we are here. We're not going anywhere. Liberians will have to face each other, learn to live with each other, and find ways to resolve their problems. So these are our challenges now, about both the past as well as the issue of the TRC. We at the Governance Commission were organizing a symposium. We still have it on the drawing board, where we want to take the TRC report and the reconciliation roadmap and say, okay, where are the overlaps? Where are the issues that are not overlapping here? And how do we contextualize these issues given Liberia's evolving situation? And how do we move forward? But we as a people have to think these things through and move on. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Before I take the next question, let me, I know you underscore the need for decentralization in Liberia. I think that seems to be one of the primary focus of the Good Governance Commission, if I'm correct. We've asked some of our guests, previous guests on the show here, as much as at least one particular guest thought that decentralization was a good thing to consider in Liberia, but he cautioned us to be a bit careful, given the fact that the issue of people voting along tribal lines is still pretty much an issue of reality in Liberia. All right, so he argued that, for instance, if decentralization were to decide, for instance, that we should now elect superintendents, mayors, and the rest of it, that some minority tribes within certain counties will never see those positions anymore because people will be pretty much voting based on tribal sentiment. And so he outlined those as some downside of decentralization in the way that you've been talking about it. Do you agree with that assertion?
No, I don't agree with that. I didn't hear the name of the person who proposed, who has these fears, but I don't agree with that because a number of things can happen, including the fact that you can structure your electorate in a way that compels a winning candidate to win significant portions of minority votes. That happens elsewhere. You can structure the thing to say, okay, if you have 4 districts, you must win at least, 30% or 25% or whatever it is from the majority of the districts. And you ensure, therefore, that candidates are national, or in this case, county-wide candidates, rather than candidates of any specific ethnic group, also a single ethnic group. So these kinds of things can be worked out. There are lots of ways to work out institutional arrangements to protect minority rights. In fact, that's one of the most important purposes of the central government. That will be one of the most important responsibilities put in the new Ministry of Local Government, to ensure that minority rights are protected, that rule of law exists, and that you don't get a tyranny of the majority. These things they're done elsewhere. They can be done.
Okay. Dr. Sawyer, it's 5 p.m. here in Minnesota, 6 p.m. on the East Coast, and I believe it's 11 p.m. in Monrovia. My request is that can you please give us 30 more minutes so we can wrap up? Can you do that, sir? Can we do 30 more minutes?
Okay, let's see how far we can go.
Okay, thank you. I thought you were going to say let's do 1 more hour. That's what I was looking forward to. No. Well, anyway, so all right, Doc. Well, let me once again acknowledge the sponsors of tonight's program, and which happens to be the Organization of Liberians in Minnesota, OLM, with a mission of providing social services in the areas of health, housing, education, and advocacy. Get involved. It is your organization's sign, OLM. If you wish to sponsor any event here, if you got any program coming up, activity that you wish to get out to Liberian people instantly, we suggest you contact us at 612-203-3820 so we can tell you how. And also, ULA Dual Citizenship Committee is a co-sponsor of tonight's event as well. We want to acknowledge that. And our next guest next Sunday will be Alaji G.V. Kroma. We invite you to tune in as well. Let's take another caller. Let's hear from 2337. 8237. 8237. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
I'm Mohammed Dukle. I'm calling from Minnesota, Minneapolis. Dr. Sawyer, I've been following your steps on talking against, advocating against the ills in Liberia since in the 70s. And now you are the Governance Commission, the chairman of the Governance Commission in Liberia. And there is an allegation when you were interim government president that it is alleged that you told your cabinet members to take their own property, to take the properties of the government to be their own property. And what is your stand on this when you were leaving from power?
Thank you.
That is not true. Nobody took any government property away with them. What we did do was that we had spent $170,000. I think Mr. Willard was there.
Oh, well, we lost Dr. Sawyer again. We've lost Dr. Sawyer. We've been pretty good at getting him back, so at least he's picking up much more quickly now. So I urge you to stay with us. This has happened quite a few times, and it is understandable. We call him middle miles away, and he's in Carway. His reception is pretty bad. So we ask you to stay with us, and in the meantime, again, do be reminded that come Sunday, January 12th, we'll have Alhaji G.V. Kroma, and I'm told his preferred topic could be the TRC report. And additionally, it is our understanding that he's a possible aspirant for Lofa County senator, upcoming senatorial race. So we'll have G.V. Kroma on next week, and here comes Dr. Sawyer again. Dr. Sawyer, welcome back to the show.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on, Dr. Sawyer. Welcome back.
Yes. Yes, answering the caller, I'm saying to him that is true. There was no plunder of the government. There was nobody converting public property to private use. I am saying that what we did do was we spent something like $170,000 in buying some used vehicles that were used over a 3-year period. There was about 4 or 5 cases where, given the circumstance of individuals and given what they had contributed, they asked that those cars could be evaluated, or whatever the word is, valued, and have them purchase that. Willard Russell, who until recently was Minister of Transport, had been GSA Director recently, was also our GSA man at that time. He can attest to this and gave even greater information. But the value of that property, of the automobiles, I would say the combined value of those automobiles did not have even reached $25,000, because there was nothing that was not second-handed, and actually would have been condemned to start with. And so that kind of thing is indeed what our critics blew out of proportion. But I can say this much. Given our track record of efficient, honest, I underscore, honest performance, I like us to go back and see how many of those who are our critics can boast of the record that they set if it matched what we did in terms of honesty. Let's go back. Now, it's interesting. It's easy to criticize those things, but we've seen since 1990, we've seen the unfolding of several regimes, and we've seen several individuals who were our fiercest critics. They have tasted power. I like us to go back, look at their record, and look at what we did. And we're proud of what we did.
I hope the argument is that the information, the allegation is incorrect, as opposed to comparing it with others who did it. Since you had two wrongs does not make one right. And also the issue of value, what the vehicle's worth. That's certainly not of much relevance if you ask me, because even the smallest amount, an in-pen, for instance, if it's public property, no one should take that away when leaving office unless under special circumstances.
No. Excuse me. The sale of public property is a legitimate procedure. Laws are on the books as to how you go about doing this, the transparency of it, and other types of procedures. I am telling you that for a few people, a very few people, I don't think there were more than 5 people who made this request, and who, on the basis of their own circumstances, a decision was made and was implemented through GSA in a public manner.
Okay.
And I'm saying to you, no, because this is a governance issue. I'm saying to you, not only do we stand by that, but we have seen deterioration in the governance practices that time to succeeding governments. And that's important also.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Dr. Sawyer. Let's hear from a caller in Massachusetts, I believe. 2010, your name, where you calling from? I'm not sure if it's your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer. 2010, 2010.
No.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hello?
All right. Yeah, can you hear me? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Your name, where you calling from, and your question. Please keep it brief. We're out of time.
Yeah, my name is Newton. I'm calling from Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah, my question to Dr. Sawyer is, during the time he was in as president of Liberia during the interim leadership. I would like to know if there's anything that he regrets at the time that he would have done better if he were there at this time. If there's anything of such that he may want to let us know.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Sawyer, do you have any regret?
No, I don't have any regrets. I only wish we had more resources to have done more, many more things. Because for that period, if you talk about the economy, during that period, the Liberian dollar was stable. We had electricity, though it was Monrovia-based. We were using, the only funding we had was coming from the maritime resources. We didn't have forests. We didn't have diamond mines. We were not digging gold. And with those resources, we were contributing our fair share, and people don't know this, to the upkeep of some of the forces. I won't call them, but there were some smaller countries here that were participating in the ECOMOG civilization force. Yes, and we were making a contribution, to some of those initiatives, in addition to maintaining at least an educational system here, a health system here, and doing the kinds of things that we did, and doing so amid fierce criticism, and doing so on open lines. Remember, we established the open press, the open line. You call, you say whatever you want to say. We answer you just as I'm talking to you today. That had never been done in this country before. We started that.
Yes, Dr. Sawyer. We remember that. You started. Well, you did that. Let's hear from 1728, 1728. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer. Please keep it brief. Please keep it brief.
Thank you very much for putting me through. My name is Manu Belete. I'm calling from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm going to ask a question about something that most librarians try to shy away from, though it has continued to underpin our cause for national development and unity. It has to do with religious equality under our Constitution, Article 14. I don't want to read all of it because it's a little long. It talks about religious equality and the Republic of Liberia not establishing a state-owned religion, and people should be protected in the practice of their religion. My question now to Dr. Sawyer is that has the government of Liberia, let's say past and current government, have they done well in the implementation of this provision, looking at good governance as a model? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think yes. I think the constitutional provision is being upkept, has been upheld. I think we need to further that with the provision of equal opportunities in education and all that. And I think people of various religious communities should also encourage the acceleration of education and skills development in the various communities, because that, I think, is ultimately what will sustain what we want to achieve with respect to equality of people. I think you know that there is a provision in the Constitution which currently some people are unhappy with, that says Liberia is a secular state and is open. It's religiously people are free to worship as they please once they don't encroach on the rights of others. It's been some time now, at least beginning with not beginning, but I know for sure under the interim government, we had a deliberate policy where if we open with a Christian prayer, we'll close with a Muslim prayer. We celebrated and had messages for all the feast days, for the major feast days, including the feast of the Ramadan and feast of Ibrahim. So I think this country is going to accept this. I know there's some backlash. There will be some backlash. But that's all part of the process of change. It's just that those people who want to move forward, and I think the majority of the Liberian people want to, their solidarity should become stronger, and the efforts reaching across the board, ought to in fact be strengthened. I recall the efforts of the Interfaith Mediation Committee in bringing peace here. If that group didn't do its work in a kind of an interfaith manner, we would have had more serious problems here based on religious differences than I think we would have been able to handle. So let's just keep pressing forward with an agenda that ensures that all faiths have an opportunity here once they are not encroaching on each other's space, or they are not, in fact, preaching intolerance. I think that is critical.
Okay. Folks, here's my plan to get us out of here. This is nothing new. Every time that we've had a very high-profile guest like what we have tonight, we try to manage the time somehow. So now I'm going to begin taking 2 callers per answer. I'll take 2 persons, and then before Dr. Sawyer answers. Questions still remain one question per caller, but we'll just increase the number of callers opposed to 1 person, and Dr. Sawyer answers. So let's take 2 callers, and then Dr. Sawyer will address your 2 questions, and then hopefully that will speed up or give more people the chance to ask questions. 1572-1572, your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer. Hello, 1572, are you there? 1572? Oh, excellent. Nice. That helps. We'll take him out of the queue. 7867. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
Okay, hello?
Yeah, hello?
Okay, my name is Musa Keita, calling from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
Okay.
Dr. Sawyer, how do you rate the performance of Madam Selid's administration for the first term and in the second term, having served as Commissioner on a good governance? Thank you.
Thank you. Now, let's take another caller, Dr. Sawyer. How do you rate the performance of any government? Let's add another question to that so that we can get out of here quickly. 5735-5735. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Dr. Sawyer.
Yeah, this is Basiki Kwane from Philadelphia. I don't have a question. I just want to commend Dr. Sawyer for being a long-standing advocate for social justice in Liberia. I was in Liberia quite recently when he served as the keynote speaker during my book launching program. I have been a long-time admirer of Dr. Sawyer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kone. Dr. Sawyer, well, since we're not getting a second question, let me, before we forget, can you address that question? How do you rate the performance of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government in the first term and the current term from the viewpoint of Good Governance Commission?
Well, I think Mrs. Sirleaf provided excellent leadership in the first term, and she's doing similarly in the second term. I think we have some serious challenges. I think there is need for all of us to rally and see how we can address the challenges that our country is facing. So it's for us, I think, to be critical, but also to be open to working together to make a difference. And in this case, I'm not just talking about people in various areas of government or people in government versus people in civil society, but, again, the diaspora, the religious communities, the business communities, all of us. So that's I think the challenge is getting together, listening to each other, formulating the best policies, and all joining together to implement that. But let me just say something about Vasily, and I'm happy to hear about him. I just want him to know we look forward to another book from him. He's an excellent writer, and he's doing a lot of great things through his writings and his artistry to advance education and culture in this country. We thank a young man like that, and we want to see more of them.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. With 7 minutes to the time, let me take this back to Emmanuel Wetty before I take maybe just one or two follow-up caller, and then we can call it a night.
And then we can wrap up.
Yep, then we can wrap up, exactly.
My wife is getting very impatient.
Yeah, we'll soon get you out of here. Mr. Wetty, welcome back to the show. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Moderator and Dr. Sawyer, thank you very much for the opportunity. And that, just for the record, you are absolutely right. This is our first contact on dual citizenship. One in Liberia, our political officer didn't do a good job in us meeting you. So for the record, you are absolutely correct. This is our first contact. We appreciate that you support this effort, and we will take upon you. We will contact your offices so that we both can work together and make sure that dual citizenship becomes the reality of today in Liberia. And not to say much, I want to say thank you for everything that you are doing. And like the moderator mentioned, you have more than 800 Liberians on the line. And dual citizenship is very, very important, not only to us in America, to put in Ghana, Sierra Leone, and everywhere. I want to say thank you for your effort. We'll partner with you. We'll contact you. And we all together, we work together and make sure this becomes a reality. Thank you very much.
Okay, I assume that will be it for you, Mr. Wetty, right?
Yes. And thanks to the audience and the moderator for the time, and thanks to our supporter of dual citizenship for coming, and let's keep the fight until we achieve what we want. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm going to take two follow-up callers, and then I'll go to case.
May I just say something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just to say to Mr. Whitty, thank you very much. I have to admit that I have not been following this debate very closely. Not because I've not been interested, but because I think it was not on our own, mandate. And as much as we are working on a range of issues, this particular issue was not part of our mandate, and it was not brought to us by any group to discuss. I am personally committed, and I'm sure that if we're working together with the Law Reform Commission, with individuals in the legislature and individuals in the executive, civil society organizations, and I understand you've done a lot of this on the ground. And, so my not knowing about it doesn't mean that nothing exists. But it hasn't been a preoccupation because it hasn't been on my, list of mandated areas. So we look forward to, your visit or the local group here that we could listen to and perhaps provide some inputs and see how something as important as this can be moved forward.
Thank you. So I promise you we'll get you out of here sooner than your wife thinks. We just got probably a few. So, but before though, when we're growing up, there was this saying that justice delayed, justice denied. I think I have denied some people justice here. I've not acknowledged all of those who helped to make this show great. For instance, I've not mentioned the name of Vamba Fofana. I've not mentioned Al Donzo. Most certainly, I've not mentioned Brother Bangali Tsawale, whose office I'm currently operating. So all of these people, helped to make this show a success. So to Mr. Bangali Tsawale, Al Donzo, Vamba Fofana, the EULA East Regional Vice President, and my guest Cecilia, without whom, the Iron Lady of the Liberian Diaspora Forum Weekly Talk Show. I want to acknowledge all of you for your contribution and for the good work you are doing. I don't want to forget that before I get myself in trouble. So let me take just these two last callers, follow-up callers, and that's it for them. And then Gensler will come and close this remark, I believe, by thanking you. And then we'll return the floor to you for a closing remark, Dr. Sawyer. Sarah Yewule, very quickly, your follow-up question, very quickly.
Yes, Brother Kumar, thank you for taking my call. I just want to follow back quickly with my response to the Honorable Dr. Professor. To, please, if you have the opportunity to have a coffee with the Vice President between 9 and 19, just tell him about your experience on our wonderful show.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm sorry I didn't comment on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so impressed. Yeah, but let me follow up back with with one of the callers who talked about any regrets. I thought this is an opportunity for you to speak candidly and frankly about anything you can think about. Let me mention a few. You were accused of formation of Black Terror, whether true or false. You were also during your tenure that we have the infamous Autopus, and thousands of lives, were lost. So as interim president under whose tenure, we saw one of the worst faces of our world. Are you saying, Mr. President, if I may call you, to be respectful for my interim president, is there any regrets at all? Thank you so much for being on the show.
No. Let me say this. The only regrets I would have is that we did not publicize many of these things that people are talking about. We did not answer them at the time when we should have. My own predisposition is always to let the record speak for itself, not knowing that the record can be distorted and it can take a long time before the truth surfaces. With respect to the massacres that you're talking about, particularly that one, do you realize? You remember it was blamed on the AFL? When the TRC report came out, in fact, long before that, they did find out who actually did this, and the people who did the report have since regretted that they did not investigate thoroughly. That's one. The other one with the black beret, I can tell you truly, if I had to do it again, I would do it, and I would train more people, far more men, because it is those people working along with ECOMOG when that octopus attack came about. They were the ones who knew the ground very well, the River Rhine streams, the bush paths that were being taken. When grenades were being thrown in town, those were the guys who, in fact, stepped up. And if there is a regret, my regret is that they have not been given sufficient credit for the contribution they made. And I can tell you this, they were organized in full knowledge of the West African forces. That is why ECOMOG could work with them. They were not like people doing something clandestinely, Sawyer doing his thing by himself. No. It was part of an approved West African plan. That is precisely why in the crunch, ECOMOG worked with them. Remember that? They were not among the people that ECOMOG was chasing. They were part of the forces that ECOMOG was using, to help them do some of the work that it needed to do. So that should tell you something, that it was not, in fact, considered a clandestine thing. I saw the TRC report on that, but I mean, that's the TRC. When the issue was brought to me there, I'm telling you exactly what I told them. That is why if the TRC didn't have any problem on me, it was not only my candor, but the records that they could find about these things we're talking about. So, was I perfect in that? No, of course. I think, we found ourselves in a situation in which we had no resources to do the things we wanted to do. We had quite a bit of internal dissension. Remember, this was not an elected government. It was a government whose legitimacy based upon the broad-based coalition that they brought together. Political parties, warring factions, all in one government. How often does that happen? You see. So I think we forget the circumstances too. And frankly, I would like if you can point to me some issue there with those two that I supposed to be regret. I can tell you honestly, I would say so. Well, I had to think about one. But as I said, my regret was that our communications were poor. And I don't think, many of the people, understood the constraints under which we operated. Now, how do you blame the interim government for massacres that are committed by armed groups? If there were massacres created, you say by the beret, then I think there's something you're talking about. But armed groups that are pledged to taking over by force, of course.
Okay.
That's part of what they were doing, and that was part of what the conflict was about and the effort to stop it.
Okay. All right, Dr. Sawyer, here is the last one. I suggest whatever this follow-up caller has to say, I'm just taking him, and then after that, I suggest you begin your closing remark, and in the process, you can address his or her concern as part of your closing remark.
Very good.
If that's good with you.
Wonderful.
And let me say, it's been my greatest pleasure having you on the show. I apologize for all of the things we went through, the back and forward calling, miscommunication. But please note that we will call on you again if our audience asks also. So this is the first time. We hope it's certainly not the last time, sir. So
thank you so much.
1963, please keep it brief, your quick follow-up question, and then Dr. Sawyer will begin his closing remark. Your follow-up question, the last caller for the night, 1963.
Good afternoon. Again, Mr. Koma. Once again, we would like to commend you for excellent job doing for our community here in the United States. I just have a quick question for Dr. Sawyer. What is your comment on the recent London-based magazine naming the Liberia Finance Minister as the Finance Minister of the Year in Africa. What is your comment on that? Thank you so much for taking your time to address our concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer.
He
said, what is your view on the London-based magazine that recently endorsed the Finance Minister of Liberia as the Finance Minister of the Year? What is your take on that?
Well, is that so?
That's what he just told us. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. You know, Mr. Kone is a very hardworking young man. I can tell you that off the bat. Very hardworking young man. And I think his efforts, it's gratifying that his efforts are appreciated by people outside Liberia. You know, congratulations to him.
Thank you. So you may proceed with your closing remark. What do you want to leave us with today, Dr. Sawyer? Your closing remarks, sir.
Well, I too regret that we had all these problems going back and forth, but I think this is an excellent program. They engaging the diaspora, engaging with individuals here in Liberia. I think we should both on both sides work very hard to ensure the development of our country, the unity of its people, and I wish you good luck in this effort, and I'll be all too happy to pitch in whenever you want me to.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. I appreciate it, and our apologies to your wife for keeping you up this late. So let's all have a wonderful night, folks. Good night. And, yep.
Good night.